What is up, guys? Welcome back. We have another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show for you tonight. It's Thursday night. We're doing our live PPR mock draft here on ESPN. And I got a special guest with me tonight. He's going to be picking from the 4 spot. It's a good friend of mine. His name is Cody. He's got some drafts coming up this weekend, so he wanted to practice. And he's also in the biggest league that I play in, so I like his opinion. He's got some good, sharp angles on some of the incoming rookies and things like that. So we'll see what Cody has to say tonight. But man, welcome. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good.
We got Cody in the 4th spot. I'll be in the 12th spot. And if you're watching this video and you're not picking 12, I do have a playlist. I picked 1 through 12. I have all the videos you need for that. But with Cody at 4, I just want to say, I don't know how many mock drafts you've done or where you're at with your draft prep, but having a top 5 pick is very lucrative this year. I just want to be curious and see what kind of names are you looking at the 4th overall pick?
Yeah, I've been looking at a few. Obviously, I'm assuming Jonathan Taylor is going to go 1. Kind of figured Eckler would go. Christian McCaffrey. I know in my league, I'm kind of hoping McCaffrey drops. Seeing what happens with those top 3 will kind of determine whether I go receiver or running back. I think to start.
For me, as far as I'm updating my tier rankings right now for the draft kit. I think if you have a top 2 spot, you're very likely taking Jonathan Taylor or Christian McCaffrey. I was curious, if you had the 1st overall pick, are you taking JT or McCaffrey?
I'm going JT, maybe as a little bit of a homer pick with the Badgers.
Oh, that is true. I didn't think of that. But for me, I think JT is probably the safest pick you can make. But can you if Christian McCaffrey plays the whole season, I think he outscores JT pretty easily. Let me turn the volume off there. But if we get a full season of McCaffrey, man, that could be super rewarding. So the top 2 picks are tough, but I get it. Pick the safe play with Jonathan Taylor. I'm assuming McCaffrey's going to go off the board here, and there he is. And now you're on the clock, Cooper Kupp. Let's see, what do you got here?
So Eckler's always been an intriguing piece I've been kind of looking at lately, and I kind of was thinking maybe going to early running back receivers, and then maybe picking a little bit of later running backs.
Are we at all interested in Justin Jefferson here?
I definitely am going to see a ton of targets in that office, but I'm going to try to go, I think, running back early and see how the draft plays out. So I'm going to stick with Eckler.
So Eckler to
Spiller might take a few carries, but...
Well, I've heard good things about Spiller, but he's still kind of behind. I guess Josh Kelly showed up in camp, and so there's kind of question marks at the 2 spot. But either way, man, I'm kind of with the Chargers. This is kind of my take. I'm not sure about Keenan Allen this year. I think Keenan Allen, at being 30 years old, we could see some decline in Keenan Allen. So the less Keenan Allen outputs, the more Austin Eckler could do as a receiving weapon. So I'm big into Eckler. I think he's a top 5 pick. Najee Harris at the 5 spot. Holy crap. That's something that I'm not sure I can stomach there. Justin Jefferson at 6. I mean, I'm willing to take Justin Jefferson over Cooper Kupp. I don't know what your thoughts are on Justin Jefferson. What do you think there?
I know talking to you a lot, he's one of your favorite picks, but Harris could be a stud. I think you could see a lot more dump downs this year with a young quarterback, depending on who they start. I guess any of those 3 guys, I could see them thrown out to the flat a lot.
So I think the bull case for Najee Harris is that Ben Roethlisberger was just so old and washed up that teams were not afraid of him. They could load the box. Mitch Trubisky might make them hesitate enough where they have to defend the run or things like that, where it could open things up. But it's hard for me because the Steelers have legit the worst offensive line in football. It's them or the Bears. And I just get nervous about Najee Harris. So for me, I can't take Najee Harris over Justin Jefferson. He's kind of a back end of the 1st round pick for me. So I get nervous about him, but you can't ignore the volume. I think he's set up for a huge amount of targets and carries. But I'm on the clock right now. The thumbnail guy, Stephon Diggs. I'm going to take Stephon Diggs here. But as I look around here, I kind of want to start wide receiver, just because it's rare to get Devontae Adams as a wide receiver 2 in your lineup here. I'm not taking Deebo Samuel here. I'm kind of off Deebo. I think he had his career year last year. I think it's going to be hard for him to reproduce that with Trey Lance. But man, DeAndre Swift could be a lot of fun. Javonte Williams could be fun. I just feel like I'm reaching. So I'm going to collect Devontae Adams here, go with the 2 wide receivers start. Where are you at on Devontae Adams?
Well, I have a bet against a buddy of mine that the Raiders won't make the playoffs this year for $100, and I think the offense. I don't know. I'm interested to see how much Carr's gonna queue on Devontae Adams. If it'll be the downfall a little bit, like Rodgers had last year, a little.
Well, I think either way with Devontae, you have to one downgrade him because of the downgrade to quarterback, but also he's got to compete with Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow. He's never really had that target competition in Green Bay, so that's going to make me hesitate a little bit to take Devontae in the first round. But the way that I only get Devontae Adams on my team if I can get him as my wide receiver too, because I think that is the safest play for him. I don't know if he's a top 5 receiver this year. I feel good about him being a top 10, just on receptions and volume alone. But I find it difficult to. I'm kind of in agreement with you. I think the Raiders, not sure if they're a playoff team, but you're on the clock here, so I'll let you kind of talk what you're going through.
Yeah, so I was gonna target Kelsey there. I kind of wanted to go a running back, and then I wanted to get a piece of the top 2 tight ends. So I think I'm gonna stick with my pick of Mark Andrews. It's not a strategy I typically go with, but I do always find myself struggling with no tight end in the season. So I'm
I
gonna go
think.
that route. I think I can piece together my wide receivers a lot easier,
Mhm.
and you just have a competitive advantage when you got one of those top tight ends.
I don't get why Kelsey goes so late. I think he's worth like I could have taken him at my 12-13 turn. I don't get why he's going in the second round. I think to me I think it's still Kelsey above Andrews for me as the number 1 tight end, but Andrews it's that security. Like you just feel good. Like every pretty much he's guaranteed to be a top 5 tight end. You have that advantage there. So I like getting a top definitely a top 5 tight end for sure. And who knows, like Mark Andrews, he could supplant Travis Kelsey again this year. That wouldn't surprise me at all. But I think the early you want a top 5 tight end, or you don't like you want to wait till like the last couple rounds to make a group of tight ends. But it's fun. But I want to hear what you're thinking about here because you picked next in 5 picks, pick 28. So who's catching your eye here for your third round pick?
Yeah, so I'm definitely going receiver. Really like T. Higgins. Just an offense you want a piece of.
Yep.
It's kind of what I was gonna say about the whole with Chargers too. I feel like you want a little piece of it, and it looks like Higgins fell to me, so that's definitely what I'm leaning right now. I mean, yeah, looking at the top of this list, there's some other guys I like, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, hoping I can get one of them to fall to me in the next round. So I'm gonna stick with Higgins here.
So I think you navigated those waters pretty well here. So you didn't mention a running back in that third round, whether it's Nick Chubb or Montgomery. Like no running back stuck out to you, which I think is important to note. To me, round 3 is a heavy wide receiver round. Like there's just tons of guys here that I want on my team. But all of a sudden you have a nice, well balanced start: Eckler, Higgins, and Mark Andrews. Can you tell me what the difference is between Higgins and Jamar Chase's for like total fantasy output? Like I have to squint because I don't know if there's that much of a difference.
No, and I think Higgins. I think he's only gonna get better this year, being in
Um,
that offense and just those players all playing together. I think there's gonna be a little bit more even of a target share. I don't know exactly what it broke down to last year, but
well, last year,
did Higgins actually get a little more?
basically, so he had a shoulder injury. He missed 2 games here early, and then he kind of wasn't himself in like October. But after the bye week, you see some of these boom weeks. He did have a couple down weeks here, but he was. I think if we were to look at the playoff numbers, like it was very clear that like they're kind of the same. Like they're same targets, same receptions, same everything, same touchdowns. To me, I love Jamar Chase, but the fact that you can get T. Higgins round 3 when Chase goes in the top 10, I don't know about that at all. But I'm up to pick here. I continue to have receivers here. Ezekiel Elliott sticks out as just like a super safe running back for me. But man, like I'm tough. This is a tough decision here. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna slap Mike Williams on my team. He is my number 7 ranked wide receiver in my projections. But man, like there's see in most leagues here, I play in a lot of 2 flex leagues where I can start 4 wide receivers. So in my head, like AJ Brown, I want him more than I want Ezekiel Elliott. But in the 4th round, man, Ezekiel Elliott was RB7 last year. I think he is a guy that I think people are sleeping on. So if I wanted a running back, I think it's Ezekiel Elliott, but I got to get AJ Brown. I know he's on my bench here, but in the leagues that I play in, he would be my fourth starter for me. So I'll rack up the wide receiver team. We'll see if we can get some running backs. But let's see. You're up to picking a few picks here. Who's sticking out in the fourth round for you?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be looking at, I think, wide receiver, running back. See what falls to me. Elliott, still hanging there. I don't know if we have another auto pick ahead of us.
We got
Um,
one here. Yeah, 43, unfortunately.
okay, so yeah, Elliott's
There he goes.
gone. I'm definitely looking at Jerry Judy, Courtland Sutton.
Do you have a preference? Do you like one more than the other?
I do. I like Sutton.
I love Sutton. Sutton's the guy for me. It's not even close.
So I think that's who I'm gonna target here if he falls. A couple other guys I like.
Any
Yeah, so
running
I'm
backs
gonna.
on your radar here?
Yeah, I was looking at Elijah Mitchell.
Okay.
Wouldn't mind having a piece of that offense. Got
Definitely not
Hunter
quarterback though,
Renfro
right?
up
No
here.
QBs.
This draft, I'm not gonna go quarterback early. I think I'm gonna lock in Courtland Sutton here. I really like him at this pick.
I think he's a top 12 receiver this year. I mean, keep in mind, like Russell Wilson, dude. Like I think every year of his career, he's had a top 15 wide receiver. So that's kind of the floor for Cortland Sutton to me. I just think the dude's going to lead the team in yards and touchdowns. Maybe Judy beats him in receptions, but it's setting up for Sutton to be the guy, and that's what it sounds like from training camp. Is like he's the go-to guy. So I absolutely love Sutton. But what are you looking at in the fifth round here? You already got the tight end, so Kyle Pitts is not in play here.
He is not for my team in this draft. Kind of looking at the running back board. I
Does
like Elijah Mitchell.
Does Justin Herbert interest you at all? I don't know if you care about stacking him with Austin Eckler, but Eckler's going to catch 70 plus balls this year, so that could be kind of fun.
Yeah, I was thinking about a quarterback in one of my next two picks. I have, what do we got here? What fell?
I think the sweet spot for quarterbacks is like round 6 through 8. You can get a top 10 quarterback, no problem.
Yeah, and I don't know, Amon-Ra St. Brown is really intriguing to me too.
He's on my list for sure.
So,
He's kind of the poor man. He's a poor man's Cooper Cup. You got to think about Jared Goff. People like to knock on Jared Goff, but that dude had multiple fantasy receivers relevant every year that he was with LA. And like Amon-Ra St. Brown, man, he's been on record saying like I trust him so much. He's looking for him when the play breaks down. And dude, it's like look at these stupid numbers from Amon-Ra St. Brown at the end of the season last year. Like the dude won people fantasy leagues. I gotta turn this volume off. But it's just massive. Like 5 straight games of double-digit targets, 4
yeah.
touchdowns, 8 receptions in every single game. I don't think you're going to see this production, but you gotta think he's going to get 8 to 10 targets per game as Goff's number one receiver. So he's a guy. Fifth round. He's almost like an auto pick for me lately.
Yeah, and he's got a ton of talent. Goff, he likes looking at like you said with Cup. He's good at distributing the ball. He's gonna get his wide receivers the ball. They're gonna throw it. So I don't know. I'm excited about it.
I think we should be excited about the Lions offense this year, but I wanted to I have the guy highlighted here on the right side. I wanted to hear your take on Allen Robinson because I'm Allen Robinson. He's rising up these ESPN draft boards. He used to be like a round 6 pick maybe a week or two ago, but all of a sudden he is crashing higher and higher.
Well, that team's gonna throw the ball. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Right. So I'm up to pick here. Let me change it to my team. I already have Devontae Adams, so I don't know if this is a good move here to take Darren Waller, but Darren Waller at pick 60, like I don't know if I hate having a wide receiver and tight end on the same team, but because tight end's so shitty for most teams here, I don't think it matters. So I'm gonna take Darren Waller here, lock him into my tight end starting spot here. I could really use a quarterback and a running back for sure. You mentioned Elijah Mitchell here. There's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But I gotta reach for the brand here. I'm taking AJ Dillon. I want to lock in my running back here. Me and Cody were talking before the show. I have AJ Dillon as a top 20 running back, and I think his ceiling is top 15. So for me, I went heavy wide receiver. I got Darren Waller here, and then now I'm just gonna kind of fly around and see if I can get a running back here to stick as my RB2. So AJ Dillon is my pick. Cody, as you pick number 69, nice. Who are we looking at here in the 6th round?
So I'm gonna see what running backs I'm gonna be able to draft in this pick. You got Miles Sanders. Should be a decent PPR back. Cordell Patterson, I'm expecting a decent drop. Singletary.
The
I don't
running
know
backs are ugly this round, man.
Yeah, I'm really.
You missed Mitchell.
Yeah, I need to get auto draft before me. Like Melvin Gordon, there's just gonna be such a split with him and Williams.
Yep. What do you think about Rashad Bateman here, dude?
I do like Rashad Bateman. I'm gonna see go all position.
So in the league that you're going to be drafting on Monday, do you start 3 wide receivers on a flex?
Yeah.
So you can't. So this, if you were to draft a receiver here, he is a starter for you.
Just
I would have
looking
linked
this
Juju
through.
there as well.
Yeah, I mean your quarterbacks now. I think you can wait a little bit on that. Try to capitalize a little bit more on some of the board.
And this is a tough spot. This, for me, the 7th round, 6th, 7th,
I'm gonna
8th
try
round.
Bateman out here.
Yeah, Bateman's a good pick. And dude, like last year, Marquise Brown was a top 24 wide receiver. Bateman's going to be a wide receiver too by the end of the season. I just think that one, I mean, you collected him as your number 4. That's massive. Like that's a huge win. So I feel pretty good about that. But I wanted to, before, I guess, let's as you pick again here, are you looking at running back here? Is this where you pull the QB? What are you thinking?
I think I'm gonna I think I'm gonna let quarterback slide a little bit more. I think I'm gonna try to get my second back. Really like Allaire. I like Pollard here. I think he's gonna get a bigger share of that offense.
I'm definitely into both guys you mentioned there, Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Tony Pollard. I think they're safe for 8 to 12 points per week. You're getting the RB1 for the Chiefs, which I think is very valuable. But I wanted to quick mention we have a good friend of the show, Justin. He's drafting in the 8th spot here. I just want to double check his team. I think he's pick number 8 here. He started with Dalvin Cook. Looks like he's the one that landed Travis Kelce in the 2nd round. So good spot there. Comes back with Nick Chubb, Darnell Mooney, Hunter Renfrow, and Ezekiel Elliott in the flex. So I like the 3 running back approach here. And then just some high volume receivers here paired with Travis Kelce. He's going to be able to lock in some wide receivers later in the draft. So I think that's a good start.
Yeah, he's got a really balanced team.
Yeah, that's a really well balanced team. I need some running backs here, and I think the more drafts that I do, the running backs just look better and better to me as it goes on. But maybe I'm just gross, and I like some of these like flex type running backs that could be league winners. But I mean, you talked about Tony Pollard. I mean, I could safely whip out Tony Pollard as my RB2, and you're going to probably expect 8 points per game as your floor. And if the touchdowns fall his way, like you can start to see 15, 16. I kind of like this basically from week 10 on, you see 15, 9, 16, 15, 11, 7, and 8. I think he's a really safe floor that you can, for my specific build, I'm 0 RB. I just want to lock in 8 to 10 points per week. So Pollard is my pick here. I just want to do my due diligence here. Devonta Smith, Kadarius Toney. The fact that you can get Russell Wilson this late, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, I think this is a clear sign that you should wait for your quarterback. I think in a 10 or 12 man league, that just makes the most sense to me. But I got to grab my guy, Tony Pollard here. Any other running backs that stick out? I really like Chase Edmonds here. I don't know what you think about Chase Edmonds in the Dolphins offense here, but I think for PPR purposes, he could be a really nice gem. I think that's where I'm going to fall. I'm going to fall with Chase Edmonds, and basically I have Dylan, Pollard, and Chase Edmonds, and I'm going to figure it out. I'll figure out the running back 2 spot along the way. So, but I wanted to ask you, like, what do you think about Chase Edmonds in the Miami Dolphins scheme?
Well, I was talking to you kind of about Chase Edmonds because I was flirting with him on being my keeper. But you kind of scared me off the Dolphins running backs a little bit. There's a lot of horses in that stable, and you never know what you're getting with Mostert. I mean, you can kind of expect him to be hurt, but I do like Edmonds a lot. He performed really well for me last year.
Well, what interests me about Edmonds is you got to think about Mike McDaniel, the head coach, coming over from San Francisco. I mean, that's also another reason why I kind of like Raheem Mostert to kind of be the 1B in that situation. I think he's going to be the guy that's getting the more carries. But I mean, when free agency opened, Edmonds was the first player that signed. Like he had offers from Buffalo and Houston, I believe, but he turned them down. He wanted to go to Miami. So to me, it's just kind of this perfect fit where they have a plan for him. They targeted him aggressively. I trust the coaching staff to want to use him. And basically in PPR leagues, man, he just makes a lot of sense to me. So I like Edmonds quite a bit. But you have to when you draft Chase Edmonds, you got to be like, okay, Raheem Mostert could be a thing. But Edmonds he's the third best player on the Dolphins, and he's the best back, I think. So um, looks like Justin said you took his Melvin Gordon. Tell me about Melvin Gordon. What do you like about Melvin on the bench?
Just another offense. I think there's a lot of firepower in that offense, and I know especially like my work league, I'm going to be sitting on Russell as my keeper. Yeah, probably won't target having three pieces in that offense with Sutton,
Sure.
Russell Wilson, and Gordon, but I thought the value is there. I think the experience will help him.
So who are you? I like Melvin Gordon on the bench if things break right. And he basically was in a 50-50 split with Javante last year. I don't think we can expect that, but for the most part, like you're going to be able to whip Melvin Gordon out there and feel like you got a good shot at a touchdown and a handful of touches. So I like, and if anything happens to Javante, like knock on wood, like you got something there. But what are we looking at here with your ninth round pick?
So I'm looking at Trey Lance and Stafford here. I like Trey Lance with the running ability.
Yep.
Stafford is going to throw a lot of footballs, so I'm going to go Stafford just because I know it's a high floor.
Lance is interesting, man, because like nobody knows like what they're gonna get with him. But with Stafford, you at least have some stability. I know he's got an elbow thing right now, but it sounds like he's back in practice and throwing the ball at a regular rate. So I like Stafford. Maybe you draft a QB2 later in the draft, but to lock in almost 35, 40 touchdowns and 4,000 plus yards, sure. I think you did a really good job here. This lineup here of Stafford as your QB1, you got Eckler and Clyde Edwards-Helaire with a little bit of Melvin Gordon in case you need it. But the meat of this team, man, is at the receiver and the tight end position. You got T. Higgins, Cortland Sutton, Mark Andrews, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Rashad Bateman. That is a sexy core there. So I think this is a pretty good build that you got going on here. But I'm going to be pivoting to my ninth and 10th round picks. Let's see what I can find here. I got some gems here, dude, and I got to take Trey Lance, man. If, what is the legit upside of Trey Lance this season for fantasy?
I don't know. I think he could take the league kind of like Kyler Murray did, be one of them top quarterbacks, being the dual threat.
So he's in that Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray wheelhouse, man, where the dude could the dude could run for 800 plus yards, tons of touchdowns. And he's got that big playability where, like, once a game, he's going to find Brandon Ayuk or Debo Samuel for like a 67-yard play. So to me, oh man, in a 12-man league, if you can wait for Trey Lance, like you're getting some massive, massive upside. His numbers last year, a game against Houston, 19 points, 8 for 31, 2 passing touchdowns. Like that's not even a lot of rushing upside there. But holy crap, I think in a 10 or 12-man league, I'm gonna circle Trey Lance because guess like if you wait for QB, like sure, I can get Trey Lance and I could pair him with Derek Carr, or Kirk Cousins. Like that's such a good strategy to me to wait for Trey Lance and then just get a solid veteran that you can trust. But let me pivot here. I got another pick to make here. I'm looking at the running back situation. James Robinson, Kenneth Walker, James Cook, Michael Carter. Someone stole my Naheem Hines, damn it. That would have been my favorite pick here. But wide receiver, there's some rookies here. I'm gonna collect James Cook, the Buffalo Bills running back. I just think they have a plan for him. Did you like James Cook coming out of Florida
I
State?
was I was actually looking at James Cook instead of Melvin Gordon, so I think that's a good pick there.
I think you want to draft a rookie running back and a rookie receiver this year. I think that's very clear to me. My boy Justin, he stole my pick. I was targeting Damian Pierce. Do you know anything about Damian Pierce with the Texans?
I don't really.
Damian Pierce, man, he's got league-winning upside, I think, at this point in the draft. You're talking about a guy here who's competing against 32-year-old Rex Burkhead in a coming off in a torn Achilles a couple years ago, Marlon Mack. Like Dameon Pierce is a good 3-down back. I think we should be excited about the Texans' offense, year 2 of Davis Mills with Brandon Cooks and Nico Collins. But check out Dameon Pierce, man. He is a guy that is rising up draft boards right now. You want to put him on your bench in fantasy because the dude could be a top 24 running back this year. So he's a guy that I have kind of circled. But you took Michael Carter here. Tell me about Michael Carter.
So Michael Carter with second year in the offense. I think they're gonna be touch and go with Breece Hall a little bit if he doesn't take over. Hoping to get a couple of receptions out of him as a fourth running back.
Yep.
Kind of analyzing a lot with my team. I got 2 running backs on the bye in week 8, so I'm gonna need guys to plug and play.
Yep.
Here I'm definitely gonna be targeting receivers. I'm looking at Josh Palmer.
I like Palmer a lot, but we had a question in the chat room from our guy Justin here. He's asking about thoughts on the Browns' offense with no Deshaun Watson for Well, Watson's not coming back till week 13, actually. So to me, I'm not drafting Deshaun Watson in redraft leagues like at all because the dude's not even allowed to be with the team until he returns. So you're talking about December, Deshaun Watson. He's not going to have any access to the team for 3 months. Hasn't played football in 2 years, and I don't know if I want to hold on to him. I think the Browns are looking at a lost season. So you got to think about Jacoby Brissett throwing to Amari Cooper, David Njoku, the running backs. What do you think about the Browns, especially like Nick Chubb, Amari Cooper, some of the assets there from the Browns?
I don't think Nick Chubb will struggle as much. I mean, there's definitely gonna be a little bit more stacking the box, but
Right.
I think he's one of really the only safe picks. I mean, you could argue with Cooper. Who do they even have slotted in to play quarterback there right now?
Jacoby Brissett.
Jacoby Brissett. I mean, guy's played a decent amount of games. We'll see how he can fare, I guess, for production with his players around him.
Right. He just needs so in 11 games, Jacoby needs to win 4 or 5 of them for them to have a chance at the playoffs, I suppose. That's really about it. But anyways, I'm up to pick here. I don't know where I want to go. There's tight ends that I like. If anything, like the one Brown that I feel comfortable about is David Njoku because Brissett's kind of he likes throwing the tight ends. He's had a lot of success throwing the tight ends. You think about Gesicki or some of the guys with the Colts. Like I think he's known to throw to the tight end. So I think Njoku is probably the one Brown that I don't really see a difference of with Jacoby. But as I pick here, I mentioned before, you want to draft a rookie running back this year, whether it's Dameon Pierce, whether it's James Cook, a couple other guys later, but you want to draft a rookie wide receiver. So I'm gonna take here Jahan Dotson, who is well, I want to hear your thoughts on Jahan Dotson in a second, but he is the clear number 2 receiver in Washington. And it sounds like he's been he's been one of the best players in Washington camp. And in the first preseason game, the dude was out there with the first team for all of Carson Wentz's reps, like all of the first team reps, running all the routes. Everything's like he is the cheapest starting rookie wide receiver that I think has a good chance to deliver on ADP. But I'm going to take one more. I don't love the running backs here. I'm going to gamble and see if I can get some guys later. But this is my last receiver I'm going to take here, and it's Rondale Moore. So I want to hear your thoughts on one, Jahan Dotson from Penn State, and Rondale Moore.
I mean, Dotson was really good with Penn State. McLaren's obviously going to draw the best cornerback every week, so Dotson I feel like is a safe pick. See how he does in his rookie season. I guess it's always a toss-up. Moore, I've been watching him a little bit. I watched some of that preseason game with New England and the Giants, and definitely flashed a little bit.
Rondale Moore, Cardinals.
Oh, okay. Who was I thinking of? Robinson.
I like Wandale though. Wandale could be a player. Yeah, he's fun. I know he's 5'8", but that's the only negative people can say about him. But he's a player, man. But I had someone asked, who is Tyler Algier? Do you know who Tyler Algier is?
A little bit. I don't have much info on him.
BYU, he's kind of a banger in between the tackles. My boy Aiden says Algier is the starting running back for Atlanta. I'm not sure about that. Maybe at some point during the season. You're going to see a heavy mix of Cordell Patterson, Damian Williams with Algier mixed in. But yeah, that's an interesting play. I think Algier is a guy you can maybe pen as your sleeper here. And again, I mentioned you want to draft a rookie running back. Like Algier is one of those guys that you can just throw in at the end of your draft. I'm also into Rashad White. What do you know about Rashad White, Cody?
Rashad White.
Tampa Bay.
I honestly don't know much about him.
So he's a pass catching specialist out of Arizona State. One of the best pass catching backs in the draft class. Really no like Giovanni Bernard's his competition would be the RB2, and he looked pretty good in the preseason. Really fast, really good burst and speed, and he's just a dynamite pass catcher. Like if he can get on sync with Tom Brady, and when has Leonard Fournette ever, been the bill of health? Like he's never really been a super healthy guy. So I think that's an interesting play for sure. But I got a bunch of running backs here. So you just took Raheem Mostert, which Raheem Mostert's growing on me. I think the narrative of his offensive coordinator in San Francisco being his head coach, he knows the scheme. And so, like Cody, like when Raheem Mostert's healthy, is he not like one of the best running backs?
Yeah, he definitely is. It's just
He's
about staying healthy.
Yeah, so it's just staying healthy. But at this point in the draft, I think just collecting some talent here. I'm gonna double check your team here, see if I missed any picks. You ended up with MVS and Josh Palmer. Tell me about MVS there in Kansas City.
I mean, they paid him, so gotta imagine they're gonna be using him.
3-year deal. It looks like. Did I get sniped on my guy? I did not. One of my so I went light on running back to start the year or to start this draft. I have AJ Dillon, Tony Pollard, Chase Edmonds, and James Cook. Kenneth Gainwell, one of the best running backs picks that I think you can make. 13th round, like come on, like he is the team's goal line back, third down back, and the second down back. Like you think about like a guy like kind of like JD McKissick, but younger, better, more talented. I feel really strongly about him. And then my guy here, Aiden, mentions one of the best sleeper running backs that I think you can mention. I don't know, was he drafted? Let me look here. I got 20 seconds to do the job. I'm
Who is
looking
this?
for Brian Robinson.
Brian Robinson was in the list. Yeah, he's still there.
Got him. All right. So I'm feeling good about this. Brian Robinson, are you aware of what's going on with Antonio Gibson? We need to make a PSA.
No, what is it?
Antonio Gibson's in the doghouse, dude. He led the league in fumbles. No other player fumbled more than Antonio Gibson last year. Maybe a quarterback did, but as far as receivers, running backs, and tight ends, Gibson led the league in fumbles. He also left a lot of yards on the field. And you got to think about J.D. McKissick coming in for the third down work in the 2-minute offense. So his pass catching upside is limited. In the first preseason game, again, I mentioned Gibson had fumble issues last year. The dude fumbled in the first preseason game. Immediately after the next drive, in comes rookie Brian Robinson out of Alabama. And he goes in and he gets a touchdown. And Gibson's working with the number 2 offense the rest of that game. So Brian Robinson, again, I mentioned taking rookie running backs. Like you can get Brian Robinson in the 14th round, and he could end up punching in 6 to 7, 8 touchdowns this year. Because Gibson, man, he is number 1 on my do not draft list. So I don't know if you know about Robinson from Alabama. He's a really solid, sound player. He kind of reminds me of like a Damian Harris type, just no nonsense, smash mouth kind of football. But I love Brian Robinson, especially at this point in the draft.
Yeah, I sniped Big Bob there.
Big Bob Tunyon. And so what I like about Tunyon is, sure, he might start the season on the PUP list, but you can slide him into the IR and then go get a free pickup for the year. You're up to pick right now. You're looking at defensive kickers. What do you got?
I am looking at. I think I'm gonna go kicker here just because they're gonna produce more points. I think with what's left at defense, we got.
I like to stream defense.
Yeah, I mean, I know our league we don't even have a kicker in a defense, so
Yeah.
this was really my last of my worries.
Do your other leagues carry defense and kicker?
Yeah, it does. Trying to get it changed, but as of right now, it still does.
Well, I have the defense you're gonna want for the first 2 weeks, and then you can play streaming games after that.
Okay.
But I'll tell you in a second. I'm almost up to pick here. But the team you want to start the year on your defense, it's going to be the Denver Broncos. They're going to open up at Seattle Monday Night Football. Week 2, they get to host Houston Texans. So to me, I'm going to take the surefire bet and just grab those first 2 games, and then I'll evaluate defense, the rest of the way. So I love Denver Broncos defense as my starting D. And then kicker. What are the rules to drafting a kicker? You want a dome kicker? You want a team that scores a lot of points? Kind of situation here. Will Lutz with Houston with New Orleans, he's back. Like that's kind of interesting. He used to be a prolific kicker, so I'll land on Will Lutz here. But this was fun. Justin's saying he loves his team. Let's check out team number 8 and see what he's got here. He's got Derek Carr, Dalvin Cook, Nick Chubb, so strong running back game. Darnell Mooney, Hunter Renfrow at the receiver position. You got Kelsey and Ezekiel Elliott at the flex. So heavy running backs, some zingers at receiver. And then look at the bench here. Tyler Lockett, Ramondre Stevenson, Damian Pierce. He got the rookie receiver there, Chris Olave, Tua Tagovailoa, George Pickens. We didn't even get to mention George Pickens in this draft. And then Michael Gallup. So really strong draft there from Justin. But Cody, let's evaluate your team. What do you like? What do you don't like? What would you do differently?
Definitely liked how the earlier rounds fell. Eckler, Andrews, Higgins. I think I got really solid wide receivers top to bottom. But a couple guys I really like, Josh Palmer. I've seen nothing but good things coming out of camp with him. Just kind of hoping on to hit on a couple guys with Melvin Gordon, Michael Carter, and then Big Bob. Definitely a guy I could, run at a flex.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's an outcome out there where Robert Tunyon is one of the best Packer receivers, if you will. So I like the move here. It looks like you have a well-balanced bench, some good running backs there. Raheem Mostert, man, he could be a thing. We all know when Raheem Mostert's healthy, he is a tank to bring down. And you get the Rams D, Greg Joseph. Thursday Night Football, the opening game, dude. Rams defense versus Buffalo Bills. Are you starting Rams D?
Probably not.
All right.
And
so
honestly, in this draft, I didn't even really target them. Didn't even
this,
really think about kickers because I would never take a Minnesota Viking kicker.
although Greg Joseph, though, he was a top 10 kicker. I think he was like number 7 last year. But since we're going to go overtime, you got some time left to talk here?
Oh, yeah.
This is the week 1 schedule. Like if you had to just, I like to stream defenses. I like to kind of have one defense that I'm going to hold the whole year. But if you play in a league with defenses, I kind of like to have that one that I hold on the whole year, and then I'm going to pick guys up and stream. So I kind of carry 2 defenses for the most part. But man, San Francisco at Chicago, New Orleans at Atlanta. I think those are 2 high target defenses that you want in fantasy football for the week 1. Otherwise, what about Baltimore at New York? I think it's going to be Joe Flacco. Interesting here. Any defenses stick out to you here? I love Denver at Seattle. That's one of my favorite defenses for week 1.
Yeah, I think Cincinnati playing Pittsburgh.
Yep.
I think that's definitely a good game at home. Some other Washington against Jacksonville with Washington at home. I think could be a sneaky pickup. Those are some of the ones I'm kind of looking at. Kind of would stay away from Green Bay. Green Bay could have a slow start too, so that Minnesota defense is something to look at too.
I don't know about Minnesota defense. I think I'd rather stay away from that game, but I do think there's potential for the offense to get kind of off to us. Like Green Bay's going to run the ball and play defense, so I don't know if they're going to have a huge offensive burst, but you just know they're not going to turn the ball over, so that's why I'm not super excited about that.
True, yeah.
But I like the Cincinnati point here, hosting Pittsburgh. That's a good one, week 1. Otherwise, again, I know the road games, but New Orleans at Atlanta, San Francisco at Chicago. I think Chicago is in trouble this year, man. Like their offensive line is one of the worst in the league. San Francisco defense on the road week 1, that could be a bonanza. That could be like 5-6 sacks for San Francisco. So San Francisco might be my number 1 ranked defense for the week of that week. But this was fun.
What's your thoughts on Miami's defense, and then what are you looking forward to in their offense?
Miami's defense is very interesting. I mean, they got the cornerbacks. I don't know if they quite have the pass rush to do what they need to do. But I guess week 1 they're going to play New England, so you're going to see heavy dose of the run game, which I think that's the way you want to beat Miami. You want to run the ball on them because you don't really want to test that secondary and things like that. But Miami is a team that again, you got to think about them kind of like the 49ers have been the last few years. They're going to be a team that takes pride in running the football, playing good defense, not making turnovers, And you're going to probably see the Dolphins in a lot of low-scoring games. I don't really know if they're going to score a lot of points. I like the offense, but you got to think the Dolphins, they're not going to get blown out at any point this year. They're going to probably win almost 8 to 9, 10 games. I think they're a safe team. But for week one, I don't. Maybe you start them week one against Mac Jones. Would you start the Dolphins week one against Mac?
I definitely would consider it if I'm in a league where I'm streaming defenses. Yeah.
Right, and if I miss out on the 49ers, the Broncos, or some of the other guys we mentioned here, I think that's probably how I would go about it. But man, any final thoughts here? This was a lot of fun. A good mock draft here, and hopefully you got yourself ready for what you need on Monday.
Yeah, no, I think it was a good mock draft. I like how my picks shook out. Can't really think of anything I would have changed, and probably will run a couple more this weekend, see what I can pull off and see kind of a little bit more how the trends are falling.
Definitely more mock drafts. The more you do, I think the better you're at. You got to look at ADP. You got to try different things and see where things go. But that was a lot of fun. Thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you are new to the channel. We had fun mock drafting here with Cody. Maybe we have him back on the show at some point this year. But anyways, thank you guys for your time. Have a good rest of your evening. And yeah, we'll see you in a future video. Have a good one. Peace.